Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Rotary. We spent a week off observing Martin Luther King, and we are back at it. Next week, Raphael Bostic will be giving his much-anticipated economic outlook after returning from being down under. I don't see Dennis. He'll be leading us in that discussion, so if you've got questions in advance, feed them to Dennis. Today, we are discussing the role of healthcare in a better Atlanta. And so join me in welcoming Ravi and his wife Valerie Thadani to Rotary. Thank you for being here today. Ravi, it seems like everybody in the world reports to you. I can't believe it. What a huge footprint you have, and we are looking forward to your remarks. To kick us off, I'm going to invite a dedicated, longtime Rotarian, Glenn Jackson, to the stage for our invocation and to lead us in the pledge. Glenn.
Thanks, President. Adrian, please bow your heads. Almighty God, our refuge and strength, we thank you for a new day, a new week, a new year. We thank you for your enduring love and constant grace. Life can be hard. All of us in this room have faced or are facing things that are challenging, hard to grasp, difficult to absorb. Yet you remain faithful, Lord. Your love, unconditional, your resources through the gifts of prayer and science, immeasurable and inexhaustible. Help us to keep pressing on as people and as the Atlanta Rotary Club. The words in the book of Proverbs tell us that a good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. Give us the strength, Lord, to strive to be esteemed as a club and moreover as citizens of Atlanta. We ask for your blessings and guidance and protection and ask for you to bless our food today in the hands that prepared it. In your precious name, amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated and enjoy your lunch. Thank you. Before Ravi comes to the stage to address our club, as introduced by Sam, I wanted to start by welcoming guests and visiting Rotarians. So if you're a guest or a visiting Rotarian, will you please stand so that we can welcome you to today's Rotary? Welcome. I also wanted to acknowledge something sad, and that is the passing of Rabbi Elvin Sugarman. So many of you knew Rabbi Elvin. He was a Rotarian for 34 years. Glenn, he served the invocation on countless times. I don't know how many times in his 34 years he did the invocation, but it was a lot. He was a devoted husband, father, grandfather, friend, beloved rabbi, and a dedicated public servant and leader of the Atlanta community. He passed away peacefully at his home, surrounded by his loved ones on January the 17th, 2025. So please keep their family in your thoughts and prayers. Neil, I remember when he first saw me as a red badge wearer at Rotary, man, he liked to talk about baseball. His beloved Atlanta Braves. He kept saying, Adrian, I think I was born on third base. So that's how I'm going to remember my friend Alan. We set a record attendance when the governor came to speak a couple of weeks ago. What an outstanding program that was, in which we honored the former President Carter as well. But I wanted to remind you all about his profound calls to action. Ramiz, just as we were talking about, This is not just a place where we gather on Mondays to get to know each other. It's about a call to action. He challenged us to learn more about the progress Georgia is making on tackling human trafficking. That's been an issue that our club over the years has tackled head on. And he reminded us about the Grace Commission. He said, find ways as business leaders and civic leaders to help the innocent victims of human trafficking. And then he challenged us all to tell our employees, our community, about the Georgia Match Program. We all want students to continue their education and start their careers in Georgia. So that was a terrific program to start 2025. David and team have got some great programs coming down the turnpike, and we will look forward to that. We've got a couple of new members that we want to formally introduce to the club. Firstly, I would like to call onto the stage Tim Perry. He is the Managing Director and Chief Investment Officer of Jamestown Properties, along with his sponsors Kevin Green, Ambrish Biswala, and Ray Utenhove. I don't see Ray here today. All right, come on up.
Good afternoon. It's my immense pleasure to introduce Tim Perry to the world's greatest Rotary Club, along with co-sponsors Ambrish Biswala and Ray Utenhove. Tim has built a remarkable career in commercial real estate, driven by his passion for community and creating vibrant spaces. And I think you'll agree that this work is evident in his team's work transforming Colony Square down the street on Peachtree Street, which was just a remarkable transformation, turning Avalon from an abandoned construction site into a nationally recognized urban burb in Alpharetta. And beyond those two examples, Tim has successfully capitalized and transformed another 35 major projects from New Jersey to Florida and all parts in between, with an emphasis on walkability and exceptional street-level experience, hospitality, and curated retail. In the news, you may have noticed that Jamestown acquired North American Properties Atlanta just within the last couple of months. I guess they closed, which really is a remarkable marriage of two organizations that have so steadfastly been focused on creating great places. So now we have one of the more formidable and respected real estate placemaking organizations in the industry. Now, as Managing Partner and Chief Investment Officer at Jamestown, Tim is going to continue to grow Jamestown's assets under management. His leadership extends beyond commercial real estate as the longtime chair of the North Fulton Community Improvement District and the chair of RED, which stands for Rehabilitation Enables Dreams, which is an anti-recidivism nonprofit working to reduce individuals reoffending, going back to jail through social and civic and financial literacy and personal mentorship. Tim serves on multiple boards I won't get into. On a personal note, Tim and his wife Heather are recent empty nesters, ready to embark on a lot of new adventures, and I understand some of those new adventures are going to involve golf balls. Is that right, Tim? Please welcome Tim Perry. Thank you.
Yeah, just a minute. Thank you, Kevin. Tim, welcome to the club. In addition to being the greatest Rotary Club, we're the 4th largest Rotary Club in the world. Here's your pin to signify that. Mayor Andre in early December laid out that this year he was going to tackle anti-recidivism. We're going to be doing a program on that in a month's time. So hopefully you can connect with David about what RED does. You utilize the power of this club to engage and impact on that issue. But welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We have another new member to formally introduce to the club, and that is Brad Pugh. And I see Mark Riley here, David Allman, and Dan Gordon. So all 3 sponsors are here. If you'll join me on the stage.
Sir, okay? Great. Well, it's a pleasure for me to introduce Brad, somebody I've known for a long time. Just to tell you quickly a little bit about him. He's the managing partner of Russell Reynolds, and here in the Atlanta office. And since I've been visiting with him about this introduction, I found out they have the largest executive search practice on the planet. So and Brad has been a phenomenal leader for them. As chair of the Atlanta office, has doubled their revenues and established some major client relationships, Coke, Emory, Delta, Norfolk Southern, Boys and Girls Clubs, and then they're doing a search for a Formula One racing team. So how about that? Before that, he had some really interesting, he started a dot-com venture. He's an entrepreneur, started a dot-com venture, and then served as with a company that basically convenes Fortune 100 CEOs around the world. So he's had some really interesting experience. At the same time, he's been, I mean, speaking of service above self, he's been an incredibly active member of our community. He's been a longtime board member of a group called Hope Heals that tries to help families impacted by disabilities, and one of their major initiatives is having a summer camp for the whole family for either children or adults that have a disability, and he's their volunteer par excellence. He's there practically all summer, as is his family. So I'm going to let you all ask him about his liquor store run for Desmond Tutu. I'll give you something to talk about. But and one of his major achievements that he's really proud of is Hope Heals started a new coffee shop, which I've yet to visit, but I'm planning to soon now after reading about it, to employ people with disabilities and serve people and just really show love for those folks that have challenges. So that's a little bit of Brad's accomplishments. He's a busy guy at home too. His wife Mary is a Georgia. She's a star in her own right. Georgia Tech grad, was in the CIA for 5 years, and now is over here at Georgia State Law School with the goal of once the kids are a little further along, doing some public service law. So she and Brad have 3 boys, and we have Will, their oldest son, who's a senior over here at Heritage Prep, who's 17. They have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. And Will's actually off this week shadowing business people. So if you, so he's in the midst of learning about careers. Just on a personal note, I wanted to. Brad and I got to know each other when I think this would be a God thing. He and Mary volunteered at our church to take on small groups. Mary handled the girls, and Brad took the boys, 6 or 8 middle school boys, and he stuck with them through high school every week, and introduced the scriptures and tried to make that cool. But beyond that, just incredible, just modeled Christian, an adult Christian lifestyle. And my son, who was in that, is now a 30-year-old banker in New York, still calling Brad for advice. And all those years when I knew absolutely nothing, Brad was still wise and cool, so he'd call Brad. So anyway, wonderful people. You all will enjoy getting to know Brad. Just a wonderful guy. And I think he's going to be a great member of our club.
Mark, thank you for that comprehensive introduction. I assume you know something now, not just nothing. Brad, how cool is it to have Will here today? I hope you will wear this Rotary pin with pride and tell all the folks you meet at Russell Reynolds about how we live up to our motto of service above self each and every day. I'm a South African-born citizen, so our cat was either going to be named Desmond or Nelson for our two heroes. Desmond won out. The family is dying to know what was the liquor that the Archbishop called.
It was wine.
Of course it was wine. Welcome to the club. Thank you. Boy, are we lucky to have Sam Williams in the club. Sam, if you'll start to make your way to the stage, please, as I introduce you, before you introduce Ravi, and Ravi can make his remarks to our club. Sam, thank you for putting this program together with David's help. We appreciate it. For those of you who don't know Sam Williams, he graduated from Georgia Tech in electrical engineering. He's always with the Georgia Tech crowd over there. He went on to receive his MBA from Harvard University. He began his career working for Atlanta Mayor Ivan Allen, and then served as the first executive director of Research Atlanta. In true service above self fashion, Sam also helped organize business leaders to effectively tackle social issues that interfered with economic development, including changing the Georgia flag, creating a metro water district to conserve water, and saving bankrupt Grady Hospital. He authored a book in 2016. It's called The CEO as Urban Statesman, about 5 cities where business leaders created diverse organizations to tackle really big civic issues. Since then, Sam has served as a professor of practice at Georgia State University and assistant director of the newly formed Urban Studies Institute. He served for 8 years on the board of directors of Grady Memorial Hospital and currently serves on Emory Healthcare's board of governing 11 hospitals. Talk about service above self. Welcome to the stage. Go ahead.
I need to make sure that my minister invites you to my funeral. That would be a great call. I also want to make sure that as a member of the Emory Healthcare Board, Neil Purcell is also a member with us at the board, and Neil is constantly looking at finance, and if you know Neil, that's the best thing you can get. And of course, the president of Emory, Greg Finvez, who's here today as well. I'm really honored to introduce Dr. Thadhani. He is a very highly educated and experienced professional in not only the practice of medicine, but also the business of medicine and the marketing of medicine. Under his leadership, Emory Healthcare is now the largest academic healthcare system in Georgia. Academic healthcare systems not only treat patients, but the doctors actually work as professors at the medical school, and then they also conduct research with grants that they get from federal government or other sources. Emory Healthcare now employs 24,000 people, so it's a very big, complex organization. Before coming to Emory, he had a very rich experience and background. He was the chief academic officer and dean for faculty affairs at Mass General Hospital, which we all heard about, and professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School. His career also includes transformation roles at Cedars-Sinai Hospitals and Massachusetts General Hospital. So he's been involved in the best of the best, which really gives Emory a real leg up in the competition and the treatment of people in the state of Georgia. Dr. Thadhani is renowned for his groundbreaking research in kidney disease and his first FDA approval test for preeclampsia. And for those men who don't know what preeclampsia is, it's very involved in the delivery of children in pregnancies. And it's highly praised in the field of women's health. He's also authored more than 300 scientific papers, many published in global affairs publications. That's his work experience, but his academic experience is equally as impressive. He has a medical degree from the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine, a master's of public health from Harvard School of Public Health, a bachelor's degree from the University of Notre Dame, and we're so sorry that they didn't make it through the football game here. And he also holds an advanced business degree from Stanford University, because healthcare is a really big business. Among his many national honors also is he's now welcomed as a fellow of the National Academy of Entrepreneurs. Business people doing research, creating new techniques and new approaches are very vital to the field of medicine. He also has a very rich international experience. Born in India, lived in Nigeria, and completed his high school degree in Guam. He told me the first time he'd been to America was after he graduated from high school. And he ended up going to Notre Dame. I can imagine the shock of Notre Dame after living in the places. We're also privileged that his wife, Virginia, is here. She herself is a medical doctor practicing family medicine. She's a native of Belgium, so we've got opposite sides of the world, and a graduate of Yale Medical School. So we've got some pretty educated people in the room. And Valerie and Ravi met at Mass General when they were both practicing medicine there. She was a primary care physician, and together they have 2 daughters and a son. I think you have one that's to graduate from high school, the other is in college, and the third one is working on Wall Street. That's a good offspring to have. I wish I had that. A fun fact here, though, is that when they moved to Georgia and moved to Atlanta, they'd always live in condominiums and high-rise cities, etc. And Ravi is a big player of music, particularly with guitars. And I know my grandson has this habit too. You don't really want to be in the same room when they're practicing. So I think it was Virginia who came up with the idea. We need to make sure we have an extra room where he can play his instruments all day long and all night long. So they're very happily married and coming here, and we're pleased welcome Ravi and Virginia Sadhani. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And Adrian, thank you for the invitation. David, thank you for the invitation. And Sam, thank you for that incredible introduction. So I see healthcare and the life sciences as an economic engine. Healthcare and life sciences are critical assets for any thriving, growing, ambitious city. And allow me to share with you 3 examples to make this case. And in each case, you'll see how different components of healthcare have come to drive the economic engine of a city. The first one, many of you are familiar with, is Rochester, Minnesota. The home of the Mayo Clinic, defined as a tertiary care center, but as we all know, a destination medical center. The Mayo Clinic is ranked number 1, or at least in the top 10 over the last 30 years in every single hospital poll. The Mayo Clinic started a medical school in 1972, and just over 10 years after that, in 1986, I went to visit the Mayo Clinic, thinking I would go to medical school there. During one of the tours, I asked the tour guide how many restaurants were in Rochester, Minnesota. And in 1986, they told me 6. In 2025, if you look up at last count, there are 97 restaurants in Rochester, Minnesota. Now, of course, there's an asterisk there because there are 4 Kentucky Fried Chickens, 3 Wendy's, and 5 Quiznos. But the Mayo Clinic contributes $2 billion to the tax base of Minnesota, and through a partnership, will now be making an investment of almost $5 billion to continue to put a punctuation mark on Rochester, Minnesota as a destination medical city, hosting conferences and playing a large role in innovation and wellness. Mayo's presence has also played a key role in attracting other businesses to Minnesota, such as Target, 3M, Best Buy, and Medtronic. Needless to say, without the Mayo Clinic, there is little to be desired, I would say, in Rochester. Apologies for that. This is an example of a healthcare system serving as an economic engine. This is the second city, Indianapolis, Indiana. The most valuable pharmaceutical company in the world today, Eli Lilly, is based in Indianapolis, as many people know. Its market cap is $700 billion. It started in the 1880s. Eli Lilly started there as a small shop. And at the time, in the early 1920s, Banting and Best, who had discovered insulin in Toronto, turned to Eli Lilly and asked Eli Lilly to manufacture insulin. And since then, Eli Lilly has been involved in diabetes and metabolism. And of course, as we know now, is one of the major producers of GLP-1 agents. I graduated from Notre Dame in 1987, as Sam said, and it was understood that if you graduated from Notre Dame and you entered a professional field, whether it be medicine, engineering, law, you would probably go to Eli Lilly to work if you stayed in Indiana. Eli Lilly is one of the largest employers in Indianapolis, and in fact, it's said that for every 2 people that work in Indianapolis, at least 1 is connected to Eli Lilly in some way. Its endowment and foundation are committed to the city of Indianapolis. It is what, in fact, Woodruff is to Atlanta, Eli Lilly is to Indianapolis, supporting scholarships, schools, colleges, churches. In fact, even the Canver School at Emory received some money from the foundation. In May of 2025, a few months from now, Aer Lingus will start a direct flight from Indianapolis to Dublin, of course highlighting the fact that it is a gateway and an opportunity for the residents of Indiana to explore Europe, when in fact it most likely is a way for executives from Eli Lilly to visit their primary manufacturing plant in Dublin. The CEO of Eli Lilly said recently that we are investing at record levels in our home state to help our communities and economy thrive, building facilities and hiring people. Make no mistake, they want to make sure that the best doctors, scientists, lawyers, business people, nurses, and so forth come to Indianapolis and stay there. Without Eli Lilly, there's much to be desired in Indianapolis. And I apologize, I'm not a fan of car racing, and I understand there are some car racing experts here in the audience. Eli Lilly is an economic engine as a life science company. And the last example was where I was recently, which is Boston, Massachusetts. There are 200 academic medical centers in the United States today, and about 5% of them exist in Boston itself, the home of hospitals that have excelled in research and education, patient care, and along the way had an insatiable desire to create and innovate, starting hundreds of biotech companies. The first biotech company, Biogen, which was started by Phil Sharp, Nobel laureate, he received the Nobel Prize in Medicine for manipulating genes. Phil started the biotech company Biogen there in the late 70s, early 90s. And what happened? The city of Cambridge passed an ordinance that said you can actually work on manipulating DNA when the rest of the world was somewhat chaotic in that space, and it gave comfort to Biogen and Phil and his colleagues to come and set up a company there. And what happened? 250 other biotech companies came to Cambridge. Across the river, where I worked at Mass General, Joel Habner in 1986 discovered GLP-1, just a few buildings over from where I was working. Now, I would, after 30 years, spend a lot of time recruiting, and I would hire faculty, staff, lawyers, PhD scientists, and outright they would tell me that they want to be at the center of discovery and innovation. Our salaries weren't great. Our benefits were reasonable, but they weren't outstanding. But these individuals who came were hungry for world-class medicine and world-class science. I recall one day in the hospital, while walking around and seeing patients, asking one of my teachers, have you read the recent article on that most recent treatment? And I'll never forget this. That individual turned to me and he said, I don't read the articles, I write them. I don't read the articles, I write them. That was the mindset that sat in Boston. The mindset that we were the Silicon Valley of medicine and science, and we were going to define tomorrow's medicine. Now, it's not a mistake that, as I said, there are 250 biotech companies in Boston and over 1,700 life science companies in Massachusetts. 1 in 7 residents in Massachusetts, it's somehow linked to the life science industry. An example of a community, meaning an academic health community and research community, scientific community, university community, that got together and decided to spawn an industry, and in so doing was an economic engine. And there are other examples, like the Stryker Corporation in Kalamazoo, Michigan, or Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, Ohio. Now take notice, I have not highlighted any particular company or program in the Southeast. So whether you're a healthcare institution, whether you're a life science company, whether you're a community, you can be an economic engine. And that's what I'd like to leave you with. You can see that healthcare and the life sciences can serve as an economic engine to transform a community, support a city, attract talent, and spawn industries. Now, in April of last year, I had the good fortune of interviewing James Quincey, the CEO of Coca-Cola, as you know, who came to Emory, and during a fireside chat, I asked him about brand equity. Of course, it is Coca-Cola. I asked him about quality, I asked him about leadership, but I also asked him about the importance of healthcare in Atlanta. And so instead of hearing my perspective, I thought I would have you hear James's perspective. We're coming up to the end, and I'm going to go back to where we began, which is our similar origins with Asa Candler, and we've been partners since then. Our collective interests are similar more than they are dissimilar in terms of taking care of communities. And I wonder, to this audience, a healthcare audience, how can we be better partners? How can the healthcare system, the nonprofit healthcare system, be better partners in helping Coca-Cola in its mission?
Healthcare is a critical component of a vibrant society. I mean, take Atlanta. We focus on attracting people to Atlanta. Having a vibrant, multi-sector economy, not just other businesses, not just the sports team, but the education establishment, the health sectors, the business, having that broad spectrum creates a much more vibrant city that's going to attract employees and keep employees. And lots of people don't have, the whole family's not all siloed in one sector, no? People work in all sorts of different things. And so if they have lots of different options as families to do all sorts of different sectors, it helps bring business, bring NGOs, bring the education sector here, and it's a much more flourishing city, which in the end helps us to create a bigger business because we can attract the best people. And so it goes on. It's very interconnected. The success of one actually foments the success of the other.
Very much so.
And on it goes on.
Very much so, and I appreciate that, and we're incredibly proud of that partnership. So as Mr. Quincey said, outstanding healthcare and life sciences are inseparable from a vibrant, ambitious community. What about Atlanta? You have incredible healthcare and life science assets here. When you look at Piedmont, Children's, Grady, Morehouse, Emory, Wellstar, and so forth, collectively we employ over 200,000 citizens in this city, and rightfully so believe we're a key component of the economic engine of this city. Now, we do a good job in preventing illness. We do a good job in treating disease. We do a good job of extending life. We do a good job of bringing life into this world. We do a good job of reuniting families. What I want to make sure you realize, that we also support the recruitment and retention of talent to your companies. We're a job creator for this city, and in fact, we can spawn businesses. Now, before I continue, I just want to take a short tangent and remind you about the breakthroughs in medicine today. There's really no time better to be alive than today when you think about the incredible breakthroughs that we have at our disposal. Gene therapy for thalassemia and sickle cell will be offered in this city this year by investigators at Children's and Emory. Alzheimer's drugs were tested in this city and now are offered to slow the progression of dementia. And of course, the obesity drugs and diabetes drugs, and I can go on and on. We want to continue to provide these advances to this community, and we ask that you have faith in us, in our collective aggregate of health sciences, schools, hospitals, and so forth. But we ask, of course, for your support. So what's holding us back? What's holding us back? Well, let me highlight two challenges that I'd like to share with you, and the first one is this. So this is a figure that looks at states ranked by nurses per 1,000 people. From the back of the room, you can see Georgia on the left, that's the big arrow, and in green are the states that I mentioned, Massachusetts, Minnesota, and Indiana. We have the lowest number of nurses per 1,000 people. What about primary care physicians? Again, in red is Georgia, and in green are those three other states. Primary care physicians serve as the gateway to access for people from all communities, all sectors of this city. And nurses, no surprise, are the foundation for any excellent health system. If we're going to train and attract and retain nurses and primary care physicians, we need to do a better job, because we can't keep up with your plans to grow, your plans to be outstanding unless we do this. Now, I understand that healthcare and life sciences aren't the only component of a thriving city, but I would like to posit that we are certainly an essential one. Now, people love to live in Atlanta. And when our real estate agent took my wife and me to visit homes, I asked her, why should I move to Atlanta? She said the weather, the food, the diversity, the sports, the entertainment, real estate, welcoming people. My wife and I love it here. People have been incredibly welcoming. We came from the cold Northeast, and I'm not just talking about the weather. In fact, let me just take a pause here to remind everyone that there is one person I do report to and without whom I would not be here today, and that is the president of Emory University, Greg Fenvez. His wife, Carmel, and he recruited my wife and I here, and I am forever thankful for that. Thank you, Greg. So what are the leaders of Atlanta to do? Well, what have you done? The leaders of this community, when you've come together and decided to build the world's greatest airport, you did that. As leaders of this community, when you decided to bring the Olympics to this city, you did that. As leaders of this community, when you wanted to save a crown jewel, as you heard from Adrian, you saved Grady Hospital. And when leaders of the Rotary Club, all of you, committed to eradicating polio, as you did in 1985, and I remember this because my father was, I should say, a Rotarian, and he would talk to me about this in the 80s. When you decided to come together to eradicate polio, you did. So, perhaps unlike others, I'm not here to ask for money. I'm here to ask you, the leaders of this great city, to change a little bit your mindset and believe that healthcare and life sciences are indeed an economic engine and essential to your collective success, our collective success. So, notwithstanding the incredible support that we've received from the Woodruff Foundation, who've been committed, and the Woodruff Fund, to health and health care in this city, forgive me, as being a rather new member of this city, to share with you my final observations. Leaders in this community, I hope and should believe, embrace healthcare and life sciences as a priority. And what does that mean? When you recruit talent, highlight the fact that we have great healthcare here. Remind your employees that you can actually get cutting-edge therapies right here in Atlanta. When you speak with state legislators and city council members, remind them that you need outstanding healthcare and life sciences in order to thrive and your businesses to grow. We all in healthcare and life sciences depend on their support. Healthcare and life sciences need to be brought from the back to the front of the conversation. They need to be brought from a nice to have to a mandatory component of this city's growth. And if you make it a priority, it will become a priority. Each and every one of you can adopt a health system of your choice, a medical school of your choice, a nursing school of your choice. We have great ones. In fact, the University of Georgia just started a wonderful medical school. Engage them in activities for your employees, screening, prevention, health education. Give them the opportunity to connect with your company, showing them that you value them. There's nothing better for a healthcare worker to feel valued than to see the impact that they are making in our community. Then there are some aspirational opportunities for us. It's said that creativity happens when two circles come together, and the shaded area in between represents that inflection point. And so here are some aspirational considerations. Wouldn't it be wonderful, with the largest airport in the world, if Delta Airlines was interested in building a world-class hub for aviation medicine, for pilot health, attendant health? The science is weak. There are not many centers that are really good at this. It's ripe for the taking. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we brought together engineering and health sciences and medicine to build a world-class center for studying physical injuries at work? Imagine UPS and Home Depot being interested in something like that. In other words, there is an opportunity for Atlanta not just to follow, but to lead. And finally, health institutions in this city, in general, health institutions are risk averse. We're usually slow to adopt technologies. But many of you and your businesses actually are at the tip of the spear. You're actually leading in terms of technologies and sharing those capabilities with us to improve efficiency, reduce injury, improve outcomes. We would welcome that. So I started with a tale of 3 cities, and of course I'd like to end with a 4th city, Atlanta, and that over the next decade, you, the leaders of this great city, can make healthcare and life sciences a priority. It can be that economic engine that drives jobs, helps you recruit talent, improves the quality of life of our citizens. It just takes making it a priority. And so tomorrow, when you're recruiting that CFO candidate from Texas, and she's on a real estate tour with one of your real estate agents, and she is asking the question, why should I come to Atlanta? Atlanta is a vibrant city. It has outstanding leaders. It has the best airport. It has a thriving world-class business community. It has sports and entertainment. And in the same breath, in the same sentence, in the same tone and enthusiasm, that CFO candidate should hear that Atlanta cares about your health. It cares about you, it cares about your family, it cares about your employees, and we have outstanding healthcare and life sciences here. And Adrian, we have a darn good Rotary Club. Thank you.
Wow. Katie, I think you need to hire him to work at the Chamber of Commerce. I don't know whether Pat Wilson's here today or not, but he needs to get him at the state too. We have a lot positive things here. You know, the expression in the South that I come back to all the time, if it's true, you ain't bragging. And I think we've got a lot to be truthful about. We've also got the challenge, I think, today. And I would also tell you, in helping recruit giant sports events, one of the things they ask about is their health care. What is your emergency service? What are your first responders? How does all of this work together? Do we know that if there's a crisis at your facility, you can handle it? And that because of things that have happened in big cities, we're beginning to get that question more and more. And we've got a hell of a good answer. Another thing to me is if we can get the universities and the hospitals to work together. How can you've worked in many other cities where they pull this off. We've got some challenges there, but it's a huge opportunity. How can a Rotary Club help you envision your dream?
So as the health systems in this city know, and the leaders, and some of them even might be here, know we have more in common than we have that are different. And in fact, the demand in this city is, I wouldn't say infinite, but there is so much demand for outstanding healthcare here. And so when I have spoken with our leaders at Children's and at Grady and at Piedmont, I had lunch with Charlie Brown at Piedmont, we're all on the same team. We actually want to work together. We actually want to serve this community. And I think if this leadership community here insists that we are closer together, we will do that, but we're already doing that along the way. Because in fact, one, we can't meet the needs, and two, we're actually stronger when we come together. And we've shared best practices already, Sam.
I think a great example is during COVID. I know that the heads of each of the hospitals met on a weekly basis with the practitioners saying, what are some things that worked good for you that I can emulate here or share things? And that was big advancement. But what are some other things that this club could do to help this dream of yours?
Well, my hope is it's a dream of ours, so we'll start with that. But as I said, I think if it is a priority for this community and it is part of the conversation that you insist upon, whether it be to our state leaders as well as to other business leaders, and this community partners with, again, as I said, the health systems of their choice, and there are great ones. I mean, I obviously work at Emory, but there are really outstanding health systems in this city.
Good.
I think
Adrian,
that is the benefit.
I think we've run out of time for ourselves, but Adrian, I know you want to have some Q&A with
let's
the
open
audience
it up
as well.
to questions from members. We've got a microphone right there behind Jennifer, if somebody would like to ask a question.
Thank you for all of those inspirational words. I have no doubt whatsoever that we can grow our medical business in this city dramatically, and we will. The one thing that continues to worry me as a citizen of this country is the percentage of our GDP that goes to healthcare. What would a dream look like where we get to be the most cost-efficient and cost and outcome-driven city in the world, and figure out I didn't hear anything about cost and cost reduction, and that's much on my mind. I worry about its long-term impact on our economy.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Cost is such a key issue, and as you said, healthcare represents 18% of our GDP, and unfortunately that's only going up. When we look at different models of care, which we and other health systems in this city are actually driving at, we're trying to reduce and bend that curve. Have we been successful? No. Are there many layers outside of healthcare that drive a lot of these costs? Yes. Some of the examples led by the leaders in this community in terms of healthcare is reducing the price of drugs, creating value-based relationships with insurance companies, reducing administrative burden. One interesting feature, people, for example, look at the cost of drugs as a driver of healthcare. And when you look at the relationship between the cost of R&D for developing a drug and the cost of drugs, there is no relationship. And one of the reasons is because the market will bear whatever it bears, and people get charged whatever they charge. The GLP-1 agents, for example, in Europe cost $78, $75, $100 a week. Here it costs $250 a week, just by way of example. So it's a long answer, unfortunately, that requires a multi-pronged approach. But to your point, this city can actually begin to think about ways we have creative relationships with the many employers in this city to actually reduce the cost of medications, the cost of access, and so forth. And again, it's complicated, unfortunately. But I'll leave you with this, and that is, I actually think we have no choice. We have to actually address the cost. We don't have a choice in this. We can't go from 18% GDP to 19 to 20 and so forth. And I don't want to make it seem Sisyphean that we're never going to get there. We have to get there. We don't have a choice. But the creativity in this city can actually help us.
Sounds like Martha is signing up to be the Doge of healthcare out of Atlanta. PJ.
There must be a pin for that.
So, Ravi, I appreciate the comments on healthcare as an economic driver. And if you think about the list of the medical breakthroughs that you showed, any one of those can be an incredible economic engine of and by itself. But if you actually need one of those things, the access to those can be very challenging to navigate for the people in this room, much less the more vulnerable in society. So I'm curious how you think about balancing the navigation of that system, patient care, and patient access across everyone, including the most vulnerable in society, balancing that against the incredible economic engine that healthcare is.
Yeah. So again, this is an incredible time to be alive, and we're thankful for those medical breakthroughs. The first thing I want to leave you with is those are all available in this city, or will soon all be available in this city. So the availability is there, to your point. The access to those kinds of treatments, of course, represents the challenge. And that means going back to the cost. It means going back to health systems that allow avenues of intervention and so forth. There is no doubt that when I speak to leaders in this community, healthcare leaders in this community, from Grady to Children's to Piedmont, we're committed to taking care of the most vulnerable, as well as obviously those with means. We have to, because that lifts all boats and, more importantly, improves the quality of life for all members of this community. What are we doing to improve that access? We're reducing the cost of access. We're reducing the burden of access. When I got to Emory Healthcare, we had 30 phone numbers to call to try to get an appointment. We've now reduced that to 29. No, I'm sorry. We've reduced that to a few, right? And every health system is looking at trying to do something like that. All health systems in this city provide significant amount of charitable care. Do I wish we had better support, for example, for Medicaid? Absolutely. But we can manage, and the state leaders know that, and we're working with them to address those kinds of issues. So I think moving forward, these are the challenges. I don't mean to say that I have all the answers to these kinds of questions, but it is on our radar screen that our goal isn't just to serve the haves, but also all members of this community. And I appreciate the question.
We've got time for one final question.
Great, thanks for all this. I'm Brendan. I do a lot of advising at Google X, which is their moonshot factory. So I see a lot of what's happening around AI in that space for them. And you know, one of the biggest gains from AI will be in the healthcare system, both because there's so much opportunity, but also because there's so many current constraints. Aging infrastructure from a data perspective, unique privacy and compliance concerns. I'm curious how you're approaching that to help unlock it at the speed that it both is prudent for, you know, the sector itself from a care perspective, but also isn't missing out on some of these extraordinary gains that can be applied, and including to cost, but really in this particular example around patient care and diagnosis and things like that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. There is no question that we are embracing technology, and AI being, of course, one of them. We're seduced by those technologies because we have to drive down the cost. And today, health systems in this state are reducing these kinds of technologies to help with billing, to help with capturing information in patients' charts. We're using it for improving our quality. We're looking at better diagnoses. We're looking at pathology specimens and implementing AI on them. So we're implementing technology, and we're doing so with the hope of reducing cost, improving quality, improving precision. We're all doing that. We don't have a choice. And in fact, we're seeing some gains on that front. We've actually reduced administrative burden, as other systems have, along that pathway. The challenge for us, and I'll leave you with this, Adrian, is the following, and that is, as we are seduced to embracing those technologies because we have no choice, the challenge for us in medicine is that we are disconnecting ourselves from patients. We are moving further and further away from why we went into medicine. No longer are we using a stethoscope to listen to a heart, holding a patient's arm to check a blood pressure, listening, understanding what she might be saying, and looking at her body language. We're getting more and more comfortable with those virtual technologies. We're getting comfortable with chatting to a chat box and not a human. And the challenge with that is we're losing trust, we're losing adherence, and along the way, it's creating more burnout for the medical profession and the nursing profession, because we didn't go into medicine to play with technology. We went into medicine to help people. So it's a balance. We don't have a choice. We're seduced by it, but we have to keep our eye on the ball in terms of making sure we don't disconnect from the citizens of this city.
Dr. Ravi, Dr. Valerie, thank you so much for making time in your incredibly demanding schedule to come to the Atlanta Rotary Club. It is a pretty darn good club. We heard your call to action clearly, and we'll make it a priority, and we'll continue with a series of programs about how it can be an economic engine for our community. But what an asset to have you both, Greg, unbelievable job in Atlanta. Sam, thank you for putting this together very much, and for your and Neil's passion in and around this subject. Next week, we'll pivot hard. It's going to be inflation and interest rates and dual mandates and Fed speak. But nobody makes Fed speak more engaging and intelligible than Dennis and Raphael. There is Dennis. You can send his questions in advance. So we'll look forward to welcome you all. Please join me in thanking Dr. Ravi for his time.